Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtada Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about Donald Trump's tactics in his dealings with India as well as China in the past few weeks, or at least in the past two. Rishi Kashnia, you are the first. Good morning, Ji. Aapko bhi good morning. Kaso, new Bollywood star. That's a good suggestion. Thank you very much. All right. So today I'm going to talk to you about how Donald Trump is treating China and how he's treating India with regards to trade and tariffs. So the question that I'm asking for today is this, as simple as that. Is Donald Trump trolling Modi, and is Donald Trump wooing Xi Jinping? So this is the question for the topic. I'm not going to take sides. I'm going to just present evidence to this, and I leave it to you all to put in your comments whether you think Donald Trump is trolling Modi or not. He has made some very provocative social media posts since India's war, you can call it, or India's military adventure with Pakistan began on the night of the 6th and 7th May and ended yesterday. So since then, he has made at least 3 social media posts which are very, very troubling, each one of them. And they clearly suggest that Donald Trump might be trolling Narendra Modi, or maybe he does not treat India with the same respect as we thought he would. When Donald Trump got elected, there was huge celebrations in India. They thought that this would be a very pro-India administration. There was all the talk about how many Indian Americans were in the administration, how this was not just a pro-India, this was a pro-Hindutva administration. People came on my shows and said that there have been agreements between the Trump administration and India on various issues, and so this is the closest government that we have. The Director of National Intelligence is Tulsi Gabbard, who is not just a practicing Hindu but also kind of aligned herself with Modi for a long time. And then you have Kash Patel, who is of Gujarati origins. Yes, I did watch the briefing, sir. I will talk to you about it in the Q&A session. So give me about 15 minutes to make this argument, and I'll be happy to take your questions. And I will answer those questions first who use super thanks. So the point that I'm trying to make is that there was a lot of pro-India, like Michael Waltz, who was the national security advisor. He was a very close friend of India. In fact, while he was in Congress, which was until recently, he was the leader of the pro-India caucus in the House or the Congress. So in that sense, there was a lot of expectations that this will be pro-India. There will be no discussions of India's human rights records. No one is going to ask India how I'm from the United States, Mansoor Khan. I'm an American of Indian origin who also happens to be a Muslim. So you can make of it what you like. I'm also a Hyderabadi to the core. And I have all the Indian habits that most people have. I love cricket. I love mangoes. I love to sing Hindi songs. I watch Bollywood movies. Anyway, so there was a lot of this perception that this administration is going to be very close. There will be no criticism of India on its treatment of minorities or human rights or on democracy like there was consistently under Joe Biden. So that would not be there. On the second thing that there was is that there would be expedited release of defense technology to India, and so on and so forth. So there were lots of expectations until Trump just started talking about his tariffs. And there was, if you remember, the Indian media was going crazy over the fact that when Trump was basically swearing in his inauguration, Dr. Jaishankar was sitting in the front and center. Can you imagine? The media went crazy in India over the fact. I actually did a whole show on that to show that Dr. Jaishankar was not in the first row, but he was in the third row and in the second class category, because all the celebrities and special guests were on the stage with Donald Trump, like all the billionaires, the vice president of China, all of them were sitting behind Donald Trump, and then everybody else was sitting in the front. And Dr. Jaishankar, when you looked at it from the camera on top, he was actually sitting in the third row. So anyway, there was lots of talk in January, February, if you remember, as to how this was going to be India's season. And then there was the first disappointment that Narendra Modi was not the first leader to meet with Donald Trump. He was the fourth. The first person Donald Trump invited was Xi Jinping, who refused, declined the invitation, and sent his assistant. Look at the difference. Modi was eager to be the first person to go to the US, but he was not invited. In fact, Modi was not even invited to the inauguration personally. India was invited, and usually the ambassador would go, but this time Dr. Jaishankar went to represent India. But there were many other heads of states who Donald Trump called on the phone and invited, like Melania of Italy and Xi Jinping of China. Xi Jinping sent his assistant. So, in spite of that, Narendra Modi was number fourth to meet with Donald Trump after Bibi Netanyahu, King Abdullah. King Abdullah was, I think, third, and the second was the new Prime Minister of Japan. So, there was this honeymoon period where there was a lot of talk, and then when Trump imposed his tariffs and announced reciprocal tariffs against all countries in the world, everybody retaliated or were upset with Donald Trump, and they said very negative things about Donald Trump. But India did not say anything. India did not retaliate. India simply went and said, look, let's negotiate a bilateral trade agreement. And you know what? Even before Narendra Modi came to Washington, D.C. to meet, he dropped tariffs on many of the products. Like, for example, on luxury cars, it used to be 150%. He dropped it to 75% before he came here. So even before Prime Minister Modi came to Washington to meet Narendra Modi, this is in the early days of February, India had already started dropping tariffs. In fact, India has been dropping tariffs even while the negotiations are on. For example, in the last 1 week, India has announced zero for zero tariffs for auto parts. So whatever car parts will be exported from the US to India and India to the US, the tariffs will be zero. At least that is what India has proposed. So India has been continuously reducing tariffs. So the question then arises, why is Donald Trump really not responding to India the way we thought he would? So let me give you an example of how he's treated China. So the first deal, which was supposedly to be with India because India started first, unlike every other country which opposed him and even imposed counter tariffs, there were only two countries which did not reciprocate, which was UK and India. And so the first deal went to United Kingdom. UK is a bigger trading partner than India, no doubt, and UK is also culturally and historically a very close partner of the United States. So, but yet there was so much of propaganda in India that India would be the first country to get trade agreement. In fact, Donald Trump teased India. One day before he announced the deal with UK, he said, tomorrow I'm going to announce a free trade agreement with a country which is very big and very important. Yes, UK is important, but UK is not big. It's a little tiny island. And highly respected, he said. I'm not very sure whether UK is highly respected in the world. India certainly is highly respected in the global south, and until recently was highly respected even in the West. So everybody thought it was going to be a trade announcement with India, but he went on to announce a trade agreement with Great Britain. And then now you see that Donald Trump's senior leaders from his cabinet are meeting with the number two leader of China and his assistants, and they are having a trade discussions in Switzerland. And in order to convey confidence and his sincerity, Donald Trump dropped the tariff from 145 to 85%. And even then, China is acting very tough. While Donald Trump is saying, and his secretary Besant is saying that the discussions are going well, everything is very positive. We are just about to announce a major deal with China. China is demanding that Trump bring all the tariffs down to what it was originally, which is 20%. So, but nevertheless, it appears that Donald Trump is more serious about China than any other country. He invited Xi Jinping first. He also offered to make China the first country that he would go as president. And that did not happen. In his first term, he went to China within the first 6 months of his term. He went to Beijing. This time also he tried to float that, but then Saudi Arabia came in, and actually he should be there in a few hours now. It's already Monday in Saudi Arabia. And so he's going to Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. Donald Trump loves Muslims and he wants their money and their investments. So he's going there. He's going to get a big gift. The Qataris are giving him a big plane like they gave to Erdogan, which he's going to use as his official Air Force One going forward. So that is as far as China is concerned. Uh, what is also interesting is this in this entire India-Pakistan conflict, since Pahalgam happened, the tragedy, the terrorist attack, which killed 26 innocent people in Pahalgam, and then subsequently India's Operation Sindoor and the ceasefire and so on. In this entire episode, neither did Donald Trump nor anybody from the Trump administration say anything critical of China. They did not say that it is China that is encouraging Pakistan, it is China that is supporting Pakistan, this is not good, and so on and so forth. They have been mum about China. Go and look. I couldn't find anything negative or critical about China coming from Washington in the last couple of weeks, which means it tells me that they are very serious about the negotiations that they are having with China. So, what is happening with India's trade agreement? That is the question. Because I can tell you that once it becomes more serious, it becomes that India US negotiations become more serious. They can't be negotiating this on the phone. It's more than a month since Piyush Goyal came to the US and went back, and Dr. Jaishankar has not been here since February. So when India and the US reach closer to the agreement, there will be face to face meetings between senior administration members of the Donald Trump administration and senior, probably Dr. Jaishankar as well as Piyush Goyal will probably be there in that meeting before the deal is announced. So it appears to me that India may not be even the second country with which US is going to make a trade agreement. That tells you suddenly that India is not on as high a priority as it was under the Biden administration, which consistently said that US India relations are the most consequential relations of the 21st century. I also think so. I think India is the kingmaker. If India aligns with the US will remain a dominant and hegemonic power throughout the 21st century and even beyond that. But if India were to become neutral towards China and not align with the US, come to some understanding with China that they don't become competitors and don't become a military threat to each other, then this will be the Asian century, no doubt about it. India and China both will become one and two dominant powers in the world ahead of the US by the end of century. By 2075, India will be the second biggest economy, and China will be biggest economy by 2040 latest. And US will be the third biggest economy, but in terms of military power too, India and China will become significantly more powerful if they don't fight with each other, and if India does not become a client state for the United States, continues to remain neutral. So that is where I see the global geopolitics with India and the US. These three countries are the most important countries in world politics today: India, China, and the United States of America. But coming to the trolling side, in the past few days, Donald Trump essentially shared on social media some posts which are very, very troubling. So let me read some of those posts out to you. Uh, this is in the context of the Pahalgam uh, uh, attacks and then subsequently India's attacks that are happening in response to. Let me find. Oh, I'm looking in the wrong file. Okay, so what did So the first tweet that Donald Trump did was he said, I'm close to Pakistan and I'm close to India and I'm close to Pakistan. I'm close to both the nations. And I hope that wisdom and reason will prevail and they will resolve that issue in a reasonable way. That social media post itself was troubling because he put India and China on equal moral statures, which India has been struggling or trying so hard for so long to combat. India thinks there is no moral equivalency between India and Pakistan. India is a democracy. Well, I know they blocked my channel in India. So much for democracy in India. But anyway, India likes to say it is democracy, mother of democracy, and so on. Pakistan is basically a hybrid regime with military dictatorship. India has a much better human rights record than Pakistan. India's treatment of its minorities, while terrible, is still better than Pakistan's treatment of its minorities. India is respected for its pluralism, Pakistan is not. And then Pakistan has a reputation of supporting terrorism in the region. So India should be insulted to be treated on the same level. Tahir Hassan, salam alaikum to you too. To be treated on the same level as Pakistan. So that was the first tweet, social truth post, which should have upset India right away. So when I saw that, I got an impression that is Donald Trump messing with Narendra Modi instead of saying Narendra Modi is my best friend, I respect him like he was saying that in the past during this entire conflict. He did not say that. He did not refer to Prime Minister Modi directly at all. In fact, when you look at Secretary of State Marco Rubio's assessment in the State Department's summary of what happened before the ceasefire, Marco Rubio says that he and J.D. Vance spoke with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, with Ajit Doval, and also Dr. Jaishankar. So, who did Modi speak with? With Rubio or J.D. Vance? Most probably with J.D. Vance, but not with Trump. So Trump did not even feel the need to talk to Modi to get the ceasefire, even though everyone gave credit to Donald Trump. And you know what? In India, in the past, there was all this very serious campaign going on कि मोदी जी ने फोन करके जंग रुका दिया, that Modi made a phone call and stopped a war that is between Russia and Ukraine. I mean, now everybody laughs about it, but there were lots of Indians who actually believed that Modi had the power to stop a war between Russia and Ukraine by just making a phone call. Well, we don't know about that, but Trump definitely did. Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance in one night by making a set of phone calls to both India and Pakistan, they managed to get a ceasefire. And the reason for that is very serious. At first, J.D. Vance was not interested. He said, this is none of our business. So instead of saying we stand with India, we support India, we'll provide it with whatever it needs to fight terrorism, they just said, this is not our business. As if fighting terrorism is not the United States' problem. But when apparently India hit Noor Khan, the air base, which is very close to Pakistan's nuclear facilities, that triggered a sense of emergency in the United States. They said, oh my God, this is becoming far more serious than we thought. And so they decided to intervene in the matter. And so they made all those phone calls, even though the groundwork was done by the Saudi Foreign Minister Adil Zubair. And initially, while Donald Trump did take credit for it, before anybody else, he was the first to announce the ceasefire. India did not acknowledge America's role in it at all. Dr. Jaishankar's post and the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, they best said that Pakistan's DGMO called India's DGMO and they have agreed to a comprehensive ceasefire on air, on ground, and in sea. So they did not acknowledge or thank Donald Trump in their initial acknowledgements. Subsequently, Shehbaz Sharif did thank Donald Trump for his efforts and so on and so forth. But Donald Trump's subsequent tweets were even more troubling. So, for example, when he announced the ceasefire, this is what he said. After a long night of talks mediated by the United States, I am pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. Congratulations to both countries on using common sense and great intelligence. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And here, there is no special treatment of India. India and Pakistan are treated on the same level, equally, and on par. He could have made some session. We thank India for exercising its restraint. We understand that India was under pressure to retaliate, etc. Of course, India is interested, Mr. Mandal. How many times Narendra Modi has come running to the United States? India wants 414, especially after the performance of Rafale. India wants America's technology. India wants jobs. Indians want to come and study here. There are lakhs and lakhs of Indians coming here as donkeys. They are selling their homes, lands, properties, and coming here illegally, especially from Narendra Modi's state of Gujarat. You don't see hundreds of thousands of Americans running to Gujarat, but you have hundreds of thousands. There are 5 million, 50 lakh Indians in America. So don't give me this rubbish that India is not interested. India is bending its knees to the US. India keeps saying that everything is bilateral. Trump made one phone call and India committed ceasefire. Everybody in India thinks India was winning this war. Then why did it agree to a ceasefire? Because the US put pressure on it. So all this talk, this bravado, just keep it for Indian media. Maybe it should be on Indian media. It should be an anchor on Republic TV where they say all kind of rubbish. India is not interested in the United States. They are desperately trying to negotiate. Just go and Google and see how India has continuously dropped its tariffs so it can desperately get a bilateral trade agreement with the US. That is very important. So don't give me this nonsense that nobody cares about the US. Everybody cares about the US, even today, in spite of Donald Trump. So anyway, that was the thing. But the most troubling part is the final tweet that Donald Trump said. And I'm going to read it out to you. And you will understand, at least those who have some common sense will understand. He says, I'm very proud of the strong and unwaveringly powerful leadership of India and Pakistan for having the strength, wisdom, and fortitude to fully know and understand that it was time to stop the current aggression that could have led to the death and destruction of so many and so much. Here again, Donald Trump puts, this is May 10th. Here again, Donald Trump puts India and Pakistan on the same level. So much for Quad, so much for India being G20, so much for India being the leader of the global South and Pakistan being nothing. Trump coming to India, Modi coming to the US, Modi addressing the US Congress and the Senate. Here in this statement, he's treating India and Pakistan just as equals. Then he says, your legacy is greatly enhanced by your brave actions. I'm proud that the USA was able to help you arrive at this historic and heroic decision. While not even discussed, I'm going to increase trade substantially with both of these great nations. So when Modi came to the United States, he says, I want a bilateral trade agreement so we can increase our trade to $500 billion. He wants to triple India-US trade. He wants investments from the US. He wants technology from the US. He wants jobs for Indians in the US. But now Trump is just simply giving the same things to Pakistan and said, I'm going to increase trade substantially with both of these great nations. He's calling Pakistan a great nation. But the last bit is the most troubling one. If you are in the Indian government, you should be extremely worried. I'm worried about it as a person of Indian origin. Additionally, and listen very carefully to what Trump said, additionally, I will work with you both to see if after 1,000 years, and he's put that in quotation marks, a solution can be arrived at concerning Kashmir. God bless the leadership of India and Pakistan on a job well done. So now Trump is saying that he's going to negotiate and bring about peace between India and Pakistan and discuss the Kashmir issue. What is the Kashmir issue? Is he saying that Kashmir is a disputed territory and it needs to be negotiated? As far as India was concerned, the Shimla Accords of 1972 are still in place. Even though when India announced that it was suspending the Indus Water Treaty, Pakistan said it will suspend the Shimla Agreement. The Shimla Agreement has basically three important elements. Number one, it made Pakistan recognize Bangladesh as an independent country. Number two, the line of control was respected, and both countries recognized the line of control as on the western front as the default border, regardless of all the other disputes, including Kashmir, etc. And the third agreement was that all matters between India and Pakistan would be settled in bilateral terms. That's why India has always opposed third party negotiations. When Turkey offered it, they said no. When OIC offered it, they said no. They said no to Obama. He wanted to appoint a special envoy for Kashmir. They said no. India always gets very upset when the UN or any third multilateral institution or country gets involved on the Kashmir issue because, according to India, it is bilateral. So it has to be decided between India and Pakistan through whatever means, according to the Simla Agreement. Now, Donald Trump says he wants to negotiate. There is no response from India at all. Like Arnab Goswami was screaming on his channel, which later on term. So I don't know. Doesn't Trump understand what India's position is? If there are so many India-friendly voices in his administration, Tulsi Gabbard, doesn't she know what India's position is on Kashmir? Doesn't Kash Patel know? Didn't Michael Waltz know? Marco Rubio, supposedly a great friend of India, didn't he know? J.D. Vance is the son-in-law of India. Doesn't he know what India's position is? Yet Donald Trump says he wants to talk about Kashmir. If you look at what Secretary of State Marco Rubio's reading in the State Department, in that it says that after the ceasefire, there will be more comprehensive negotiations in broad issues in a neutral country. What are the broad issues? What is there to talk about? India has an objection to Pakistan supporting cross-border terrorism. That has to end. That is why India launched Operation Sindoor against terrorist sites inside Pakistan. So the only negotiation is Pakistan going to guarantee India that there will be no more support for terrorism in India? Period. What else are they going to talk about? What are the other issues that Marco Rubio is talking about? That is troubling again. There the US is not taking sides with India. On the contrary, the US is taking positions which are antithetical to Indian national interests and Indian policy. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. I can guarantee you nobody on the Indian media even looks at these things so closely as I'm looking. They will not talk about it. If they do, Modi will cancel the channel, will close. They want stupid things to be said on Indian channel. We conquered Karachi, we captured Islamabad. No, nothing like that. When Indian Air Force spokespeople were asked about the Rafale, they said, yes, this is war, and in war there are losses. They did not say none of the Rafales crashed, whereas Indians media is saying a lot of things, but none of this media is looking at this situation in a serious. So I'm trying to do a big service to you. Nick Sodhi Saab, thank you very much for coming. And Ismail is also here. I just spoke with Ismail on the phone. Dr. Saab, what do you think will be the future of India and Pakistan? Will sanity ever prepare among South Asians? What's the solution of Kashmir according to you? I don't know, yeah. I really don't know. I went to Kashmir the last time in 1986. I was in engineering second year. We went to the Shalimar Gardens. We were trying to hit on girls. And so we had a cup of tea with me and two of my friends. It was like a date, We were Muslim boys and they were Muslim girls. And they were very shy, but they came and had a cup of tea with us. On the Bundy, the guy who pushes a cart, we bought tea and we had tea. But the thing was, in that discussion, they kept saying, "Tum to Hindustani ho, hum tum pe bharosa kaisa kare?" You are an Indian. How can we trust you? And this was the first time to me that I think of Kashmiris as Indians. And so an Indian person telling me, you are an Indian. I said, what do you mean I'm an Indian? You are an Indian too. And she said, no, I'm a Kashmiri. That was to me very puzzling that day. At that time, my political consciousness, I was studying in engineering college, so I didn't know much about the political history of it. So I think in order, Sodhi ji, to have some kind of understanding of what we would need a referendum in Kashmir as to what will the Kashmiris want. This is not the referendum that the UN said. We don't ask them by saying, do you want to go to Pakistan, or do you want to become independent, or do you want to stay with India? I'm not talking about that kind of a referendum. I want to talk about what is the mood, like times of, like India Today conducts a mood of the nation survey. I think the Indian government or some responsible media in India conducts a survey around the world, around Kashmir, to see, given the nature of Pakistan's uh, current economic situation in Pakistan's politics, and more importantly, the way Pakistan has treated its part of the Kashmir, the Pak-occupied Kashmir, it's completely underdeveloped. The Kashmir of on the Indian side is far more developed. So Indian government has invested more in Kashmir than Pakistani government has done. So I think that if some reality is shown, if there's proper media coverage of POK, then the Kashmiris will definitely not want to join Pakistan. That much I can guarantee you. So the question for India is, do Kashmiris want to stay in India, or do Kashmiris want to uh, become independent? That is the risk. They could say we want to become an independent country. Lots of, I mean, Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc., will just come in and invest billions, and Kashmir could become a very rich country. It could become the Switzerland of the world with all the investment and peace. So I think what India can do is come up with some kind of the previous arrangement, give more cultural autonomy to the Kashmiris, more political autonomy, restore the statehood of Kashmir, and make the Kashmiris feel that we are not trying to change Kashmir. 80,000 people have been brought in, and India is trying to change the demographic composition of Kashmir. It's trying to make Muslims, who are a majority in Kashmir, a minority in Kashmir. So if India pulls stunts like that, Kashmiris are going to feel insecure and against them. So this, I think that we need to really understand what the Kashmiris really want. Right now, their demands are acceptable, which is they want statehood back. I mean, they want things that they lost. They're not asking for independence, but I think some kind of a cultural autonomy and being part of the Indian Union, a kind of an offer that India can also make, not just to Kashmir, but also maybe to Bhutan as well as Nepal, and say, look, you can have your kings, you can have your prime ministers, but just make open borders, become part of India. So it's not just that kind of a federation with Kashmir, but also with Nepal and Bhutan, maybe even Maldives. Maybe Maldives may not want to join, but Bhutan and Nepal, it would be in their interest to become part of India. Anyway, that's, I'm speculating, but my kind of thinking is not something that people will appreciate. Ismail, thank you for your support. That is very generous. Thanks for being the voice of sanity all along in these times of chaos. I try my best. People don't realize this, that you can take you can take somebody out of Hyderabad, but you can't take Hyderabad out of somebody. So even though I've lived in the US for 30 plus years, 33 years now, I am very much a Hyderabadi.